Hello, everybody. Boy, I'm getting old looking. Good day. This is JD again. This time I'm back at the store. What am I going to talk to you about? Well, the NAWR Rifle Association, American Rifle Association, has finished up their meeting. And they're hollering, yelling about guns. And you got the people outside that are leftists who see no use of a gun, hollering, yelling about guns in the other direction. This video is going to be about something, but it's really not about guns, but it's what it's all about. But before we go to that, let's just think a little bit about Boston, the Boston bombers at the marathon. How many guns did they use at the marathon? To kill those people they killed and to wound and injure all those people, how many guns did they actually use at the marathon? Afterwards, they stole the cars, got some guns, and fought off with the police. But at the marathon, just think about Sandy Hook. If that individual walked in there with those type of bombs and threw them inside the room and set them off, how many he could have thrown in and killed? Well, he didn't use that because he didn't use a bomb because guns were available. That's right. But if guns weren't available, he would have used bombs. Instead of killing two classrooms, which he had to shoot, he'd have to just throw a bomb in there, blow it up, go to the next door, throw a bomb in there. He could have done several classrooms if he had done it the way the Boston Marathon bombers did it. Just think about that for a minute. So maybe we ought to start having regulations on pressure cookers. But the truth of the matter is, if a person wants to kill somebody, it doesn't matter what laws. Because, first thing, there shouldn't have been no guns in the house where he lived. Because of his mental condition, they shouldn't have been there. But they were. Is it against the law in Connecticut for people who are not fit for guns, that have mental incapacity, that there's supposed to be no guns in that household? We should look into that. And if there was, then why pass more laws if the laws that we have don't work? And that's the truth. That's where the problem is. The laws we have don't work because nobody bothers to enforce them. But that's not what we're going to talk about today. We're not even going to talk really about guns. I don't own any guns, but yet I would defend the right of every individual in this country. Now, some people say guns kill, and no, guns don't kill. You take a gun, no bullets, it's just a plain gun. Put it on the table, a real gun, a real one. Nobody touch it. Nobody put bullets in it. Nobody does anything to it. How many people will it kill? It's just like a car. You know, you take a car, you park it in a driveway, nobody drives it, nobody drinks, nobody does anything. That car just sits there. How many people does it kill? It's a machine. It's people who kill, not guns. So, I mean, you could take a hammer, it's the same thing. How many people in the news you hear that somebody has blundered somebody with a hammer or a ball bat or something else? How many people have been killed with knives? Maybe we ought to take all the knives out of the kitchen. No, you see, you're looking at it all wrong, but that ain't what we're going to talk about today. What we're going to talk about is what is really at stake and why so many Americans, even ones like me, who don't have a gun, who don't care to have a gun, is so against Congress with the regulations on guns. Really, what is it all about? Where does this energy come from? Well, it's part of the American heritage, the core of this nation. We're not an old nation like China or even Italy. I mean, Italy's got Rome, Greece has got Greece, you know. We don't have a big cultural background. Our heritage began at a certain point when all the colonies united together as one and fought for independence. That's where our heritage begins. But really, what was it that started the Revolutionary War? You had colonies like Massachusetts that had demonstrations in it, like the Boston Tea Party, the Boston Massacre. I can go on and name all kinds of things that had happened in Massachusetts prior to the Revolutionary War that were happening. And you had other colonies that were very calm and very relaxed, like South Carolina, which didn't really care to get involved into a war with England. So what is it that actually caused the American Revolution? These colonies were split, even though when they met in the House of Burgesses and when they met for their meetings like our Congress, they met and they protested against the rule Parliament impounded upon them. Not the British King, not the soldiers, but Parliament. And that's what they protested. They protested against the Stamp Act and other taxations that were done, not because the taxations they didn't see was needed, but because they had no say in it. And there was a lot of protesting, demonstrations. But what is it about guns? Well, if you remember, Massachusetts had a lot of turmoil prior to the Revolution. And Parliament was afraid that Massachusetts would revolt. So Parliament ordered the military to remove the munitions from the state militia. They did say go into each house and take out the guns and the ammunition there. They said when go to the state and disarm the militia. They wanted to disarm the militia so that it couldn't do an uprising, basically. So the British started to move, and Paul Revere and several others did the ride to announce to the people of the state militia that the British were coming to Lexington, because they knew why they were coming to Lexington, to remove the munitions from the armory. Now that's where the Second Amendment comes from. But that isn't the heritage. The heritage is much deeper than that. And it doesn't have to do with the right to own guns. It has to do to exercising the freedom we have, the choices we choose. Now the British, you all know, marched to Lexington and the state militia met them there. What happened? What happened in Lexington, Massachusetts, Concord, Lexington, that caused such an upheaval? And actually the beginning of the United States of America happened right there. All these demonstrations, all these protesters, all that going on is what you would call a Cold War. Similar to between, you remember, Russia and the United States. We weren't shooting at each other, we're just demonstrating and fighting against each other, but nobody's shooting. Lexington, it went from Cold War, demonstrations, protesting, to a hot war, a real, downright fighting war. That's where the first shot was fired in the American Revolution. That is the very beginning of the American heritage. And it was over guns. It was over munition. That is why the Second Amendment is so important. The Second Amendment is the founding of our heritage, the beginning of the United States of America. The right to have a well-armed militia is what it actually says. And the people through the years have said, well, I'm the militia, because if you read the Constitution, you are. Every one of us are part of the state militia. By law, we are required to spend 2 years in state militia, though most of us don't. I did 26 years in the military Navy, so I guess I'm pretty well covered. But the truth is, that is the beginning of our heritage. That's what this is all about. The core heritage of the United States. Now, I'm going to use a term a lot of you are not going to like, but the jerk idiots who think passing more laws on guns is going to change anything. Is it Sandy Hook? Would it or would not have happened if he couldn't get a gun? We don't know. But if you'd have went in there with bombs and blew everything up, would there be people out there protesting pressure cookers? I don't see people out around the country protesting against pressure cookers, because it don't make sense. It's actually easier for a person in this country to make a bomb 100 times more deadlier than getting a gun right now, but you only can kill one person at a time when you fire that gun, and it might not even do that, where a pressure cooker could kill hundreds at a time, depending where you place it. He could have went and leveled that whole school with several dozen of those pressure cooker bombs. Just totally leveled the school. Killed everybody in it. And there would have been nobody to stop him. If he used the bombs like they used in Boston Marathon, he could have done that and nobody would even have known he was doing it. This is just something for you guys to think about out there who thinks more rules and regulations on guns is going to change something. The truth is, the fight about guns is not really about the gun. It's about the core heritage of the United States. It is when the 13 colonies united. Once that shot was fired, it's about the first step in the organization of the United States of America. That's where it happened, the very beginning. The shot heard around the world, etc., etc., etc. That shot is what united all 13 colonies to stand up against the Parliament in England and say, this is enough. We're done. We sever ourselves from you. You are no longer a government in the best interests of the original 13 colonies. You think Congress could learn that? No. Do we have to stand up as the American people and tell Congress that you are no longer a government in the best interest of the United States of America? They're pretty much getting there. They're so politically divided. The truth is, our forefathers seen this coming, where Congress no longer functions, and they give us a way to take care of it. Term limits is not the answer, because you have that policy already. Any congressman or senator you don't elect in office back has just reached a term limit. You could set the term limits at 2 years. You could set it at 4 years. You could set it at 6 years. You could set it at 8 years. You could set it at anywhere you want. Once you say, I'm not happy with you, you're fired. His term limit is there. So term limits is not the answer. The answer is you, the people. But you got to understand who you are. Understand your heritage. This fight over guns is not a fight over the gun. It's fight over the core heritage of you, the American people, having the right to choose. That's all. All the laws they could make would not have stopped Sandy Hook from happening. All the laws. They could have made 1,000. There's guns today that are made that are not an automatic weapon. There's none. But yet you could buy that gun that's not an automatic weapon, buy a kit, and make that gun an automatic weapon. It's available online. You didn't buy an automatic weapon, but you made one. See? Bottom line is, all the laws you pass won't change. What will change is you, the people. You need to understand what's really at stake, and we need to get back to those core heritage. Now, I would not disagree with anyone who said all principals in all schools should go through a police training course to teach them how to properly use and handle a weapon, and that weapon maintained at school. So that when people like Sandy Hook come in, they could be met at the door with force of equal or greater power. I'd have no problem with that. Of course, I always believe the great defense is an outstanding offense. If that president has an offense that is superior to that guy coming in, believe me, if that principal has an offense that's equal or superior to, he could stop a lot more from happening. And the parents would feel a lot safer. You don't become principal just by coming in and say, I want to be principal. No, there's a lot involved in it. So you have schools, most schools, principals are selected very, very carefully. And most principals take their schools very, very personal. Every child in that school is almost an individual child that belongs to that principal. He takes them all to heart. I would have nothing against that at all. But understand, we could add all the laws in the world, it would not have prevented Sandy Hook from happening. And what this fight about is not what guns we can have and what guns we can't have. It's the core heritage of the United States of America. The British going to remove the munitions from the state militia started the American Revolution. And when that shot was fired is when all the states united. And that's what this is all about, our core heritage, not about the gun. And that's why it's being fought so hard. Some of the people don't even realize why they're fighting it. And look at me, I'm fighting it and I don't even own a gun. Well, my daughter's got a BB gun, but that's about it. But that's so I can teach her how to use and handle a gun so that she doesn't have an accident. And she learns. Bottom line is, people, yes, I am still a viable candidate for 2016. And you have to decide, do you want another political party member in a Democrat, a Republican, a Libertarian, or do you want an American citizen? One who cares about you and the heritage that we have to build a strong, viable positive nation for the people, the citizens, each and every child that is born to every adult till they die. A country they can be proud of. I want to thank you, and I appreciate you spending your time with me. And remember, this is JD. I'm not a fictional character. I go by JD. I will always be JD. You all have a nice day, and understand it's not about gun control. It's about the core heritage. What actually started the American Revolution, the shot that was fired that united the colonies to form the country of the United States of America. We've had a lot of stumbling since too, but that's what it's all about. Thank you.